So today we've got a court hearing that is going to be about Lindsay Halligan. You might be wondering who she is. Well, she was the newly appointed attorney for President Trump. And there's been a lot of issues and there's been a lot of concern with how Lindsay Halligan was appointed, because as soon as she got into her position, she went after James Comey. She went after Letitia James. And now Letitia James and James Comey are saying this person shouldn't have been appointed the way they were appointed. She was only brought here so she could prosecute us because the guy that left this position before didn't want to prosecute us. So now Letitia James and James Comey are trying to get their charges dismissed. And we're going to find out from a judge today if Lindsay Halligan was actually unjustly appointed. So let's check this out from CBS News and find out what's going on here.
President Trump's appointee for interim U.S. attorney faces a challenge today in federal court as a judge weighs whether Lindsay Halligan was unlawfully given the job. Today's hearing is part of an effort by former FBI Director James Comey and New York Attorney General Letitia James to get their cases tossed before trial. CBS News legal reporter Katrina Kaufman joins me now with the latest on this move. Katrina, good morning. These are separate efforts essentially doing the same thing. What is in these complaints and what will the judge have to decide?
You're right, Errol, but essentially Letitia James said that these should be combined because her and James Comey are making the same argument here. They say Lindsay Halligan was unlawfully installed as the interim U.S. attorney and she had no authority to prosecute them. They say she's violating two different laws, or Attorney General Pam Bondi is here. One is a statute that designates you can appoint an interim attorney for 120 days. They say Pam Bondi can only do this once, Errol. They also say this is in violation of the Appointments Clause of the Constitution, which says ultimately the president has to name someone that is confirmed by the Senate. Now, what the Justice Department says is that, in fact, they think Pam Bondi can appoint each interim U.S. attorney for 120 days, more than one, they're saying.
She can.
Even if the judge disagrees here, she's also given a special attorney title to Lindsay Halligan, which she says gives her the authority to bring these cases. Because the real question, Errol, is if she was unlawfully appointed, can these indictments stand?
And how might the outcome impact cases against James and Comey?
I mean, they could potentially ultimately be dismissed. It all depends what this judge decides. So there's the question, was she unlawfully appointed? If so, should the cases still be dismissed? What's really unusual here is that Lindsay Halligan went alone into these grand juries, Errol. She was the only one to sign the indictments. By comparison, judges in other states, California, Nevada, and New Jersey, have disqualified Trump-appointed U.S. attorneys, but they let indictments that were brought while they were in office stay because career prosecutors were deeply involved in those. These U.S. attorneys had minimal involvement. We have a very different situation here with Lindsay Halligan, who played a key role, really the only role, in bringing these cases to the grand jury.
And again, it's being alleged that the gentleman that was in her position before didn't want to bring these indictments, and that's why he resigned. So now we're going to hear from MSNBC, and they're going to talk about what's most likely to happen in this case. Was Lindsay Halligan appointed unlawfully? And could Letitia James and James Comey get their indictments dismissed? Let's see what they have to say.
Is here on set with me, and thankfully an MSNBC person officially. Mark Leibovich, staff writer at The Atlantic. He's also an MSNBC political contributor. And Barbara McQuaid, a former U.S. attorney and professor at the University of Michigan Law School. She's also an MSNBC legal analyst, pros one and all. David, I'll come to you first. Just walk us through what we can expect from Comey today.
Was mentioned already, but it's a motion that will argue that the prosecution of Comey is selective and vindictive. The selective part is that has anyone else faced a charge like this? Is it really unprecedented or not? And vindictive, and this is the interesting part, in a sense, politically, the extraordinary role of Donald Trump publicly calling for these charges to be brought. The fact that the career prosecutors in the Eastern District of Virginia, as far as we've been told, didn't feel there was enough of a case here to bring it. He then ousts one person there and then brings in his former personal attorney, Lindsay Halligan. So that's what we expect. And, we don't know how the judge in the case will rule. And even if the judge rules one way or another, this can be appealed and go to a higher court.
Yeah, so it's likely just the first chapter in a very long book that we're going to see written here in regards to Comey. But Barb, what do you see as the potential strength of these claims? That the prosecution was vindictive, that's one that is typically hard to succeed on the merits of. But in this instance, it does feel like it has a point. And then the other piece of it, which is that Halligan herself not only has no prosecutorial experience, but they're charging that potentially she's in her role illegally, and thusly that could erode the legitimacy of this case even further, right? Talk to us about what you see here.
Yes, vindictive prosecution can be very difficult to prove because prosecutors enjoy an enormous amount of discretion under our constitutional separation of powers. Ordinarily, it comes in a case where prosecutors say, because you exercise your right to appeal, we're going to crack down and bring more serious charges against you. So it is retaliating against someone for exercising a known legal right. The theory Jim Comey has here is a little bit novel, which is, the right he was exercising was just the right to do his job or to speak out. It's a little bit separate from the rest of the case. And so this one might be an uphill battle. But the appointment issue, I think, is a very strong argument. There are three ways a U.S. attorney can be appointed. One way is with Senate confirmation. Another way is through the Federal Vacancies Reform Act, which allows the appointment of somebody who's either been presidentially appointed and Senate confirmed to some other position or has been serving in that agency for 90 days, or through the interim process where someone gets to serve for 120 days. Lindsey Halligan meets none of those qualifications. They already had their go at the 120-day interim with Eric Siebert. And so because there is no path for appointment, I think there's a very strong argument here that Halligan's appointment is illegal. We're going to hear arguments about that in the Third Circuit Court of Appeals today regarding Alina Habba, and that may give us some insights. But of course, this case is pending in the Fourth Circuit as opposed to the Third Circuit, so we could see different outcomes there.
Yeah, and we're going to circle back to the Alina Habba of it all because that is percolating in the background. But Mark, what are you watching for from Comey's defense and from this case more broadly? Because we started our last hour talking about how this is happening in the court of law, but it's very much a case of public opinion and court of public opinion as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, before we get to the Ali Habba of it all, I love that phrase. I do think that, look, I mean, the legal parts of this are complicated. They're multi-layered, and I don't pretend to have any of the authority that anyone else on this air right now has. But I do think that the crux of this is not so much a selective prosecution, but this is playing out in a way that we have never seen before, which is a president of the United States not whispering his enemies list at all. I mean, basically being extremely public, extremely fulsome about who he wants punished, and basically that going directly everywhere, but also directly to the Justice Department, to the FBI, and what have you.
Yeah, but we've seen it happen. Letitia James ran her entire campaign on going after Trump. I'm going to get Trump. I'm going to go after Trump. Trump is going to go down. And we heard it over and over and over and over. And now the president is saying, okay, well, I think you broke the law. I'm coming after you. What's the difference? I guess it's a multi-layered, as this gentleman said. Maybe we're missing something. It seems pretty straightforward to me. Did you break the law or not?
This is, it seems to be a central part of his narrative. I mean, punishing his enemies. I think at some point, this will probably play out in a lot of different courts over a long period of time. But you do sort of have to wonder, what is the political benefit of vindictiveness, of revenge, when you are effectively sort of heading towards lame duck hood and the economy is still in a pretty rough place, and people are obviously want the president and want the Republican Party and want the leaders of Washington to focus on the economy and other issues.
Yeah, I want to know what you guys think about this. Is Letitia James going to get a win today? Court is happening actually right now as we speak. The judge may make a decision on this. I want to know if y'all think Letitia James Comey, they're right, Lindsey Halligan was appointed unlawfully, or if our guy 45-47 is going to get another win. Let me know what you think in the comments.